Hi, this is Toby, and Toby's going to help me show you some tips and tricks of working with guard combs. Now, guard combs allow the trim to be a little bit longer on the dog. The guard combs are also called snap-on combs. It's a phrase that's interchangeable, what they're called. But the key with these snap-on combs or guard combs is that they're going to leave the hair a little bit longer than what a metal blade is going to leave it. So this would be a metal blade. This would be like, this is a number 4F blade. Now I want to show you the difference in the length that a plastic or metal attach-on comb or snap-on comb can leave the coat on a dog. If we're looking at one of these metal snap-on combs, look at the amount of difference, and what we're looking at is the distance between these 2 points. That's how much coat's going to be left on that dog. And this is the metal variety. They also come in a plastic variety as well. And they both work basically the same way, but again, you're looking at your distance between here and here, and that's the amount of coat that's going to be left on the dog. So it allows to give this dog a little fuller, a little fluffier trim that's very appealing to many owners. It almost gives us a little cute stuffed animal look. Now when you're attaching these snap-on combs, when we're working with a plastic comb, you're going to use either more like a surgical blade underneath it that's actually going to be the cutting action of the blade. It's going to be the 40 or even the 50 blade. Works really well under the plastic snap-on combs. You can stretch them over longer blades, but the best and smoothest cut is going to come, my favorite blade under these is the 40 blade. Now when we're working with the metal blade, it's very important that you work with at least a 30 blade or longer, because the way that this fits on the clipper is they have little teeth, little feet right at the back edge of the snap-on comb, and you're going to fit that right over the heel of the clipper and just push and pull, and you can see how these metal teeth just fit over the metal teeth of the clipper blade. Now if you're working with a smaller or a shorter blade, when the clipper actually gets turned on, if you're working with a 40 or a 50 blade under a metal guard comb, you're going to snap all your teeth off your blade. So it's very important to go with a 30, a 15, or a 10 underneath the snap-on comb. So today what I'm going to do, work with Toby, is I'm going to do one of the plastic snap-on combs. I'm going to choose a longer variety, and I am going to be running it underneath a 40 blade. Now the trim that I like to do that's very popular with many owners, let me snap this on. You stand up for me, bud? Attaboy. Is I'm going to do the bulk of his body here with this snap-on comb, and then I'm going to teach you some tricks and tips on how to blend these legs down smoothly. I generally like to work over a dog like 3 times, and when I'm working over a dog, I work over it in series. I'm going to go over it all once, and then I'm going to look for high spots. I'm going to set the coat up again. I'm going to go over it a second time. And again, I'm looking just to pull off the bulk of the coat. And by the time I'm ready to work around the dog the 3rd time on the basic clipper work, I'm just looking for high spots. I want to have most of the coat smoothed down and ready for just some detail thinning shear work to make this dog look absolutely smooth with no clipper marks in him whatsoever. And he's going to look almost like he could be a stuffed little animal, which is what your goal is. Now when I am working with a clipper, first thing that we want to do is position the dog properly on the table so I'm not bending over the dog. So I'm going to cross him across the table so his little back feet are right up close to my body, and I'm going to pull the clipper towards me. Now the next key with any clipper work is to set the coat up properly. When I'm working with a curly coated dog like a poodle or a Bichon, I can simply back brush the coat, and what I'm doing is just very gingerly holding my brush just very loosely in my fingers, and I'm going to drag the entire pad of the brush through the dog's coat. Now, if that was a curly coat, that would be sufficient to set this coat up and start my clipper work. But because this is a drop-coated dog, it doesn't quite have the body of the curly coat. So I like to do one more step before I start my clipper work, and that's what I call as a body roll. I've got the coat basically set up, and then I want to simulate a natural shake on the dog. So I'm just going to grab somewhere around, about the lower part of the rib cage, like at the 4 and the 7 mark, just a little tufts of hair, and just give it a little tug from side to side. And what that's going to do is simulate a natural shake on the dog's body. It's going to make that coat stand up off the body just a little bit more, so that when I actually go in here with this clipper, it's going to grab that coat and take it off very efficiently for me. Now, I always like to start right up at the base of the skull. He does need to stand. Here, Toby. And I'm going to start right behind the occiput in the neck area, and I come right down his spine, and I pull the clipper towards me. I generally hold it like a pencil. You can't see that, so we'll turn, Toby, so you guys can see at home. I'm going to come right down the shoulder, and I'm going to start to feather off right at the widest point of his shoulder. And then I'm going to come down his rib cage. And I'm just going to come on down. I'm just taking the bulk of the coat off. I'm going to come over his thigh area. Toby. Top of the thigh. And I'm just going to, I call this feathering off when I start to come. Here's the widest point of his muscle, and all trims are set up based on bone structure and muscle structure. So I'm feeling for the high spot of his thigh, and I'm just going to rake over or feather over the top of that thigh, down into the lower leg. I'm going to trim right around the rump area. And now I'm going to come back up and handle his other side. Do it exactly the same way. This is my first pass around this dog's body. Nice long strokes if your clipper is going to allow you to go through the coat. If it's a thicker coat, sometimes you have to do a stroke like this, because the clipper will get too much coat being fed into the blade, and it won't allow the blade to cut. But if this is a nice open coat, so I'm being able to make nice long strokes. I'm going to come in off the shoulder, feather off there, come around the rib cage. Right down here. And then I'm going to wrap around that hip area. Wrap around the rump. I'm just going to feather off over the top of that thigh muscle. And I'm aiming towards the stifle joint right here. And then I like to lift my dog up and just get that underside a little bit. I'll turn him so you can see this side. I just lift him very gently, and I can get right underneath his rib cage here. And then the last thing I'll do as I'm working around the dog is work his throat area, his neck and throat area. And again, I'm just coming to the widest point of his shoulder. His muscle is right here. I can feel the muscle bulge. This is right my blending point, right where the muscle starts to turn under. Blend and feather off into the upper leg. Handle the neck and throat area and the chest area. And then come around here on this side. Again, feather off the top of the leg and drop right down between his front legs. Now, he's been gone over once quickly. Now I'm going to go ahead, stop my clipping for a moment. I'm going to reset his coat up. So I'm going to back brush that one more time. Oh, perfect. If you get a natural shake like that, go with it. You don't have to touch the dog again. That's ideally what you want, is a natural shake. You can never simulate what a dog can do naturally for themselves with that shake. So again, I'm just going to repeat down the spine and then start working down the right side of the dog. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to work the right side first. If you were left-handed, you probably do just the opposite. Start on the left. But since I'm right-handed, I'm working the right side first. I'm going to come up, do the neck, come on down into the shoulder and the top of the leg. Work around the rib cage. And I'm looking for that coat just to keep dropping off that long coat. And now I'm going to cross over and handle the left side. And I'm running my clippers a lot like a tractor down a field. You've heard me say that before. It's a great tip where you're not crossing over your cut marks consistently. And then I'm going to come back and wrap right around that hip and feather off the bulge of that thigh. Now if you notice, I'm also being able to roll through this coat very quickly, and I'm not getting the clipper to jam. And that's because the way I'm actually holding the blade. If you've got too much forward pressure, you're going to jam up in the dog's skin, especially those dogs that have got little body skin rolls and fat rolls. So the way you want it so that you can glide through this coat smoothly is you want to put the weight of the clipper back on the heel of the blade. So ultimately what's happening is my front teeth are lifted just a little tiny bit. So it's just gliding over the skin as I work over this dog's body. That's what's allowing me to smoothly glide over this dog. So let me finish working on the second pass. I'm going to come up into the shoulder and neck region. Again, I'm just looking for that coat to come off. And I'm just taking that blade right through. I'm looking for loose coat still falling off as I clip. This is my second pass. I'm going to do one more pass yet. Right up behind that ear bulb, right off that front leg. Now we're going to go ahead and do one more brush up and one more pass, and by that point we should be very close to being ready to detail out the clipper work on his body with thinning shears. We'll go ahead, brush him up one more time. Working around this dog 3 times. 3 is the magic number. 3 is your magic number for almost any type of clipper work, whether you're working with a blade or a guard comb. If you can get a coat absolutely smooth in 3 passes or less, you are ahead of the time game. And when you're working professionally with pets as a professional pet groomer or stylist, time is money. So you want to be efficient with what you're doing. You also want to be very safe. Again, one more time down the spine. And then I'm going to go over, drop over to my right side of the dog. I'm going to work with the lay of the coat. Bring it around so you can see. Again, we're going to go over the right side of the dog. And I'm just picking up little tiny bits of coat that's still falling off. I'm working with the lay of the coat, the way the natural coat wants to grow. Being cautious in that tuck-up region. I don't want to cut it out. This is the tuck-up region. I want to leave that to do by hand. And then I'm going to come over his thigh and his rump area and just feather off the top of that thigh, that bulge of that thigh muscle. And my blade is fitting in right at the bend of the back of the bend here. So I'm just letting my blade ride right here. If this dog were to tuck his leg into his body, his farthest most point in is right here, and that's right where my guard comb or snap-on comb is going to glide, the top edge of it. It's going to glide right here. This, to give this dog style and angulation in the rear, this is going to be your tightest spot on the dog's body. Now I'm going to come around and finish up my left side. You notice I always, when I'm working with a corded clipper, there are cordless varieties out there as well, but when I'm working with a corded clipper, I keep the cord over my shoulder so it stays out of my way. I got to come around this way. Work over the top of the shoulder, down into the leg. Now we're into the rib cage. I'm going to switch back. Again, working with the lay of the coat, watching that tuck up area, and then coming around that upper thigh area, setting in the rump, setting in the angulation on this dog's back leg. And then I'm going to take a look at his belly area one more time. And for the final look on his belly, I'm going to go ahead and lift him up. Stay up there, buddy. Again, working with the lay of the coat. And clip his undercarriage. And clip his whole underline. Watching the tuck up area, don't want to cut into that. And then I'm going to finish up right in his neck and his throat area. I'm going to move his ears out of the way a little bit. Coming up right at the bulb of the ear, clearing that whole neck, down the top of that shoulder, around the chest. In between the two front legs, and finishing up over at the bulb of this ear over here. And with that, the bulk of the body work is complete